Episode 10, 10 minutes at a time, cold reading of the Anarchist Handbook, organized by Michael Malice, from the high desert of SoCal. All right, that's Velvet Jones. Velvet Jones is in the video. All right, Velvet Jones, I'm going to read. And again, we're still in chapter 3. I apologize. We're still reading from the essay by Max Stirner, From the Ego and His Own, written in 1844. Starting on page 31. Now, in conclusion, I have still to take back the halfway form of expression of which I was willing to make use only so long as I was still rooting among the entrails of right, and letting the word at least stand. But, in fact, with the concept, the word to loses its meaning. What I called, quote, my right is no longer, quote, right at all. Because right can be bestowed only by a spirit, be it the spirit of nature or that of the species, of mankind, the spirit of God, or that of His holiness or His highness, etc. What I have without an entitling spirit, I have without right. I have it solely and alone through my power. I do not demand any right. Therefore, I need not recognize any either. What I can get by force, I get by force. And what I do not get by force, I have no right to, nor do I give myself airs or consolation with my imprescriptible right. With absolute right, right itself passes away. The dominion of the, quote, concept of right is canceled at the same time. For it is not to be forgotten that hitherto concepts, ideas, or principles ruled us, and that among these rulers the concept of right or of justice played one of the most important parts. Entitled or unentitled, that does not concern me. If I am only powerful, I am of myself empowered, and need no other empowering or entitling. Right is a wheel in the head, put there by a spook. Power, that am I myself. I am the powerful one and owner of power. Right is above me, is absolute, and exists in one higher, as whose grace it flows to me. Right is a gift of grace from the judge. Power and might exist only in me, the powerful and mighty. And we're only a couple minutes in, so we're just going to move right into chapter 4 on page 33. Pierre-Joseph Proudhon, from The Confessions of a Revolutionist, 1850. So 1850, this would have been 2 years after the 1848 revolutions in Europe. Proudhon can be regarded as the first modern intellectual to refer to himself as an anarchist, and he is the source for much of what followed philosophically. It was he who coined the expression, property is theft. Proudhon's brand of anarchism he chose to call mutualism, which was regarded as a composite of sorts between anarchism and socialism. He would argue for a revolution that resulted in a socialist society where everyone worked voluntarily to the benefit of all. The Nature and Destination of Government, that's the title. The scriptures declare that, quote, there must be divisions, i.e. parties, among men. And the priest exclaims, quote, terrible necessity, arising from the original sin. But a little reflection has shown us the origin and significance of parties. We have now to learn their object and final destiny. All men are born free and equal. Society is therefore by nature self-governing, i.e. ungovernable. And he who lays his hand on me to govern me is a usurper and tyrant, my declared enemy. But this idea of equality did not appear in the earliest phases of society. When men met together, the first thing they agreed to do was to appoint a ruler. Constituimus super nos regem. someone in authority. Such then was the first idea of human society, and the next was immediately to overthrow this society, each wishing to use it for his own liberty against that of others. All parties have been eager for the possession of power to work their own ends. Hence the aphorism of the radicals, to which the absolutists would willingly subscribe. Social revolution is the end. Political revolution, i.e. the transference of authority, is the means, which simply means, give us power of life and death over your persons and property, and we will make you free. What kings and priests have repeated for 6,000 years. So that government and party are reciprocally to each other cause, end, and means, beginning, middle, and end. And thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, has been the sole education of man by governments from the time of Adam and Eve. But when mankind shall have arrived at years of discretion, parties and governments will disappear. Thus, liberty will grow out of authority. As we have seen, socialism results from absolutism. Philosophy therefore shows us that the establishment of authority over a people can be but a transition state, and must continually diminish until it is swallowed up in industrial organization. The aphorism, therefore, must be read inversely. Political revolution, that is, the abolition of authority among men, is the end. Social revolution is the means. There can be no liberty for citizens, order for society, or union among producers until there be no more parties, no more authority, absolute liberty of the individual and the citizen. Looks like my timer shut off my camera, so I will read for about another 3 minutes. In these 3 sentences, I have made my profession of faith, political and social. M. D. Girardin says he is a revolutionist par and hot from above, and never will be a revolutionist par and boss from below. Now he thinks he has said something very original and profound in these expressions, par and hot, par and boss, which are nothing more than the old ideas of the demagogues. By the former, he means evidently the government, and calls it revolutionizing by instruction, intelligence, progress, and the extension of ideas. By the latter, he means the people, and terms it revolutionizing by insurrection and despair. But the contrary is the truth. For let us examine which of the two is the most intelligent, progressive, and peaceful. That by the government, or that by the people? The former is manifestly revolutionizing according to the pleasure of the prince. The impulse of an assembly, the violence of a club, the whim of a dictator or a despot. Louis XIV, Napoleon, Charles X, and practiced it after this manner. And Guizot, Louis Blanc, Léon Fouché wished to try the same mode. The other way, however, by the people, is revolutionizing by the common consent of all citizens, by the experience of the laborer, by the progress and diffusion of knowledge. It is the freedom of revolution, such as Condorcet, Turgot, and Robespierre desired. The greatest revolutionist in France was St. Louis, when he was only the register of the public will. The socialists have fallen into the same error as the radicals. Saint-Simon, Fourier, Owen, Cabot, Louis Blanc are all for an organization of labor by means of the state, or by capital, or by some other form of authority. Instead of teaching the people to organize themselves and to appeal to their own reason and experience, they say, give us power. They are utopians, like the despots. Governments, from their very nature, never can be revolutionary. Society, the whole mass of the people, elevated in intelligence, can alone revolutionize itself. Governments are the scourges of God to discipline the world. For them to create liberty would be to destroy themselves. Every revolution in the world, from the crowning of the first king down to the declaration of the rights of man, has been accomplished by the spontaneous will of the people. Did government possess the science of revolution and social progress, they could not apply it? They must first transfer it to the people and then gain their consent, which would be a contradiction in terms and a complete misconception of the meaning of power and authority. Look at the countries that are the freest. Are they not those where the power of the government is the most restricted, where the people generally take the initiative? The United States of America, for instance, England, Switzerland, Holland, and those are the most enslaved, where the governing power is the best organized and the strongest, ourselves, for example. And yet, we are always complaining of not being governed and asking for a stronger arm at the helm of state. And I will wrap it up there. Again, page 35, and we moved into chapter 4, Pierre-Joseph Proudhon, from the Confessions of a Revolutionist, 1850. And we'll see you another day.